And Michael, the Vrede dairy farm project, once again back on the agenda there.
Yeah, that's right. So Peter Thabethe, the former HOD for the Free State Agriculture Department, currently at pains to try and explain his actions. So once the news headlines were all about Vrede dairy, that is when Treasury establishes an investigation into what exactly was going on, how the money went from Free State Agriculture to Estina, the agreement of the contract that was signed with Estina. And it's important to remember that initially there were three parties that were supposed to be involved in this contract. It was supposed to be the skills and the knowledge in the agricultural dairy industry was supposed to come from Paras, the Indian company. Then the local implementing agent was going to be Estina, the Gupta-linked company. The sole director, Kamal Vasram, who sold PCs for Sahara Computers. And then there was the department. So it was initially three parties. But the department, according to Thabethe, couldn't contract directly with Paras as the skills behind the skills behind this project, because he says he didn't have the requisite powers to be able to contract with an international company. So he says Estina and Paras have an agreement somehow. And finally, the contract that is signed is only between the department and Estina, the implementing agent in South Africa. The day before the contract is signed, they have 16 rand in their bank account, yet Estina, according to this agreement, would contribute over 220 million rand. So due diligence, Michelle, the question of due diligence being done on this project is a gaping question. So what we've got to now is once Treasury starts investigating, they appoint Edward Nathan Sonnenberg, forensic investigators, ENS. They come to the department where they discover that there is a confidentiality clause that the department has drafted into this agreement which protects Estina. Now, it begs the question, what intellectual property did Estina have? It's a company that had no experience whatsoever in the agricultural field, but Peter Thabethe is busy explaining that because of Estina's relationship with Paras, although it was not contractual at all, that there was somehow an intellectual property breach that could take place if they, as the department, gave ENS investigators who were appointed by Treasury to investigate this whole contract. If Peter Thabethe gave permission for ENS to interview exclusively the Estina sole director, Kamal Vasram, that would somehow be an IP breach. So there is a lot of head shaking going on at the moment at this inquiry, Michelle. A lot of people struggling to understand the train of thought. But that's where we've gotten to at the moment.
Yeah, and Michael, I think essentially it's about, like you said, due diligence. And when there are hundreds of millions of rands of taxpayers' money involved, it certainly is a gaping hole. Perhaps just before we let you go, Michael, give us a sense of where we are at in the state capture inquiry. How much time is still left on the job there?
You mean the whole state capture inquiry?
As in the whole state capture inquiry.
Well, initially set down for 6 months. The inquiry went to court and asked for, I think it was a 2-year extension. I think it's supposed to go on for at least 2 years, if not 2.5 years. I know that the Deputy Chief Justice and the evidence leaders are trying to get through as many of the witnesses as they can, and they are always conscious of the time constraints involved in this. But I would have to check in, Michelle, where exactly we are and if we are on track to finish by sometime next year, I'm guessing, but it would all be assumptions for the moment.
Yeah, and I suppose, Michael, that does explain why there are increasing arguments now for amnesty for anyone who was part of corruption and state capture, provided they pay back the money, just given how much time and money it is costing the country to get through all of this evidence. Thanks very much for that update. Michael Apple, live to us there from the state capture inquiry.